guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with my February mid-month wrap-up. So I'm chatting about the 15 books I've read so far in February. I am doing this a little early. It is Sunday today, but I'm going out of town next weekend, so I have to pre-film some videos. So even though it's only the 12th, I've read so many books, and I've just been going through so many audiobooks lately because I've been doing a lot of puzzles. If you watch any of my vlogs, you probably know that I've been doing a lot of puzzles lately, and I love just popping in an audiobook and spending hours on my puzzle. So I have a lot that I've read, and I've also just been really into a lot of the books I've been reading. I mostly read ebook and audio this week. I didn't read too many physical books, but I will go ahead and get to all the books I've read so far this month. The first two I read were the last two in the Runaway Road series by Devney Perry, or the Runaway series. Book one is just Runaway Road. So I read these two with the read along I did with Tori from Novel Life, and I did do a reading vlog for my patrons. So if you are part of that group, then you've already known my thoughts on these, but I really love these last two books. So the fourth one is this one. This one's Hate to Love. It is a sister's boss romance, and it is a billionaire romance. So this whole series is kind of like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants with a car. And so these 5 teenagers grew up at a junkyard, and now they are spread out across the country as adults, and they're taking the car to the next person. So this heroine, she is taking it to her sister, who is her twin sister, but she works for a hotel, and her twin sister works for a billionaire, and she goes to visit her sister and falls for the boss, who she has hated for so long. It is a really fun boss-employee romance. I gave this one 4 stars. This is a surprise pregnancy romance, so know that going in, but these are a lot shorter, and I really did want a couple more scenes fleshed out in these books because we get a lot where there are important scenes to the development of their relationship, like when they first slept together after going to this, I think it was a wedding together or a party, I can't remember, but they had to go to something together because her sister was sick and was supposed to be his date. So she went, and she hated him, but she really stood up to his family, and he was like really impressed by that, and he's always kind of had a thing for her, at least was attracted to her because they are definitely attracted to one another, and they slept together, but it was super rushed over, and then she figures out she's pregnant, and I'm like, okay. But he is someone who will drop everything to be there for her, which I really loved, and he will do anything for her and spend any money for her, and there's some things he did in here that were really sweet, and I just really like this. And she is a not gardener, but she's in charge of the like landscaping at the hotel she works at, and she has a green thumb. She's really into plants and stuff. So this was a lot of fun. I love the unique hobbies that all the heroines in these books have, but I also loved this one. This one's super angsty. It is a second chance romance. It's dotted lines. It's books 5. It is the twin sister to the heroine of the previous book, and she is taking the car to the guy who is the final person who's getting the car, and she had always had a crush on him, but he was dating London, who was the first book in the junkyard, but then him and London broke up. They were not like the love of each other's lives. They're like, we're good. He stayed in the junkyard to take care of Aria and Clara until they were 18 so they could move out, and him and Clara kind of finally admitted their feelings for each other, but things were falling apart in his life with his mom, and her and Aria wanted to move to Vegas to start a new life. So they couldn't have anything together, and now we fast forward to now, like 10 years later, she's a single mom, and she returns the car to him, and it's very, very angsty. He's so in love with her, she's so in love with him, and I love this book so much. I give it 5 stars, my favorite of the series, and it was just the perfect book also to wrap up this series. I would recommend reading these in order, but this was such a fun series. Mostly 4 and 5 star reads. I really enjoyed it. Then I read Behind the Scenes by Christina C. Jones, and I really wanted to love this one, but this one's a lot longer than what I normally read by her. This one was, I think, 11 or 12 hour audiobook, and there was just too much dead space in the middle that I got pretty bored with the story. So this one is about our hero and heroine who meet because the heroine runs into the hero's car, and they end up having a one-night stand, and then the next day he is like a producer, I believe, or a director for a movie or TV show, and the heroine is actually someone who comes in to like help out, not like as an assistant, but a bigger role than that. And it was just okay. There was another woman drama that I didn't really love, and the hero like was kind of oblivious to the damage that that woman was doing to everybody and their production that they were putting on, and everyone else was like, this is so obvious. And I don't really love that, where the hero is kind of oblivious to some damaging and toxic people in their lives, and there was just so much that like went by and not a lot was really happening in the middle. So I was pretty bored by this one. I ended up giving it 3 stars. I know so many of my friends really love this book, but for me it just didn't hit the way I wanted it to, so 3 stars. Then I read Dr. Grant by Katerina Mora. This one was on my Hoopla, so this is the second book to Until You, which I read last month, and this one is I don't even know, like, forbidden romance, I guess. I don't know what tropes I would use. So the heroine, she is developing a toy, and it gets stuck So she has to go to the doctor because she's freaking out, but she doesn't want anybody who knows her to help her. So she goes to the clinic at the university she is currently studying at. I think she's either doing her master's or a PhD, I don't remember. But the doctor there is our hero, who is the brother from book 1, and he is pretty young, but he's trying to have a very successful career, and he's working for this university, and he meets her, he helps her, and is really into her. However, it is her grandfather, I think, who like owns the clinic or something. Her grandfather is a very well-known person and very wealthy with a lot of pull, and had really wanted to help the hero with his career, and he's like, the only stipulation is like my family's off limits. And so he is super into the heroine though, and they both know they can't be together because of her family, and it goes on from there. I enjoy this one. I end up giving it 4 stars. I do think that a lot of the drama with the relationship is resolved very quickly, and then from there we go into other drama that's thrown in there. I'm currently doing a vlog where I read The Temporary Wife, which is Katarina Moore's new book, and every book I've read by her, I've read 4 in the past 2 months. They get together by 50 or 60%, and then some other conflict is thrown in to ruin their relationship. So it's kind of the same kind of formula she uses in writing her relationships, but she does have a really good twists and turns in there. So this one had a really good twist at the end that I really enjoyed, but it was just a solid 4-star reads. I wasn't like super obsessed with the book, but I still really enjoyed reading it. I really love their relationship. I love how hard and fast the heroes fall for their heroines. This was no exception. He was obsessed with her and was willing to put everything on the line to be with her, which I really loved. So 4 out of 5 stars for this one. I gave the first book 4 stars. My favorite though is 1. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be talking, yeah, I have 3 Katarina Moore books to talk about to you for it. So that was the first one, and the next one is actually my favorite by her, so I'll talk about that in a little bit. But the next book I read, I do have a vlog for, and that was Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This book, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm obsessed. So I read this for a vlog, reading the #1 book in the Kindle store, and this was so good. This is about Cal, who is the youngest brother, I believe, of the 3 brothers. They all got a stipulation in their grandfather's will that they had to follow certain rules in order to get their inheritance from their grandfather, in order to get their shares for the company of like basically Disneyland. So it is Cal's turn, and he has to return to this house where his ex is living, and he had broken her heart. And what happens now is he has a really big problem with substance abuse, but he is trying to make amends, and he has to grovel a lot and make up for what he did, and this was amazing. It's long, but I feel like it was necessary being this long. I never felt like there was a slow part. Like, I was reading this as an ebook, had to go out to Barnes & Noble and buy a finished copy to finish reading this because I was obsessed. I read most of it in one day because Cal is such a heartwarming character, and you just want the best for him. He's such a good person, but he's dealing with a lot, and he has a problem that he needs to figure out how to deal with this and get help so he doesn't continue hurting people in his life. The text messages that he has with his brothers and their significant others are the best, and I just love this book so much. So my favorite in the series, so good. It's such a good second chance romance, and such a good ending to finish out this series, like with the will and everything and their father. It was so good. I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Professional Development by Kate Canterbury. This is a novella, and the 2 novellas that I read this month, I'm just making sure I read 2, I didn't love them. I feel like I need to stop trying to read novellas because I, most of the time, don't enjoy them and think that they're just way too short for what I want. So this one I gave 3 stars. It is they're kind of like the deans of the school. I don't even know how to describe their role. So these 2 have just hated each other the minute they met each other. So they do not get along. They're really rude to each other. They're mean to each other, but they have to work together and pretty much run this school together. And they work with curriculum and teachers, and I don't like reading about teachers, so I read this for my 48-hour readathon that I did with my patrons, and they all gave me recommendations for the prompts, and I pulled out of a jar and read this one, and I was way too nitpicky about the fact that they were working in education. Like, things that they were doing, I was like, I don't like this, because he was someone with no education background. I think he had like a philosophy degree, and he was working in education, making decisions about education, and I hate that as an educator, that there are people that have no idea what it's like to be a teacher or work in a classroom making decisions about education. So that was really annoying to me, and they had to go on a conference together, and they get snowed in, and they fall in love. He apparently had loved her the whole time, and because he loved her, he was being really rude to her, and I just like didn't love that, and I feel like they got together way too quickly. As soon as he was like, yeah, but I've always loved you, it was like, oh, okay, and then they got together, and I'm just like, this is happening way too quickly. But again, it's a novella, but I just didn't love it. I didn't love the fact that he was like really mean to her, and not in a like bully romance kind of way, but like I'm an adult and I can't deal with my feelings, so I'm going to be really mean to you. It was just, I don't know how to explain it. I just didn't love it, so I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Bittersweet Memories by Katerina Mora. I read the ebook of this. I started it last month, but had to put it down to read arcs, and I finally finished it. This one is an amnesia romance, and it is a kind of second chance because she does get amnesia and he doesn't know where she is. So they're growing up and they meet at his dad's funeral and her mom's funeral, yeah. And they meet and she's like really intrigued by him, but she's really young and he's like, I'm not gonna do anything because it's like a 4-year age gap, I want to say. So like if she's 16, he's 20. She ends up volunteering at this homeless shelter and seeing he lives there. And he lives there for a reason because he has no money, because of things that happened. And so she volunteers there, they grow closer, and then her father dies and she is left with no money and she has to go to the homeless shelter as well. So now she's living there with him, they're falling in love and they're planning their future. She gets amnesia when he's not there, has nothing on her, and so he can't find her. And because they're both homeless, there's no way for him to find her and get help. So fast forward like 5 years, he has literally started an entire security company just to track her down. And he finds her dating his brother. So that's where the story goes. It has so many of my favorite tropes. We have a time jump, we have second chance, we have sibling significant other, that is my favorite trope. We have amnesia, we have a billionaire hero. Like so much in here was so good, and he has been obsessed with her. He is 100% in love with her. That is his woman, and he's gonna do whatever he can to win her back. So that is this romance, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. This one is definitely my favorite Katerina Mora book. So much angst in here and just goes through a lot in their lives, and I loved it. So please read this book if you haven't. If you're gonna try out Katerina Mora, you should read this. I did an interview with her on Cheyenne's channel from That Tall Book Girl, and she said this is her favorite too. So you should read it. Then I read Powerless by Elsie Silver, another 5 out of 5 stars. I have become obsessed with Second Chance and Friends to Lovers. This is a Friends to Lovers romance. It is Jasper's book with, I'm blanking on the heroine's name, but they have been friends for a while. They both grew up on the ranch. She is cousins to the Eatons, and he has a really bad home life, so he pretty much was raised by the Eatons, and he is a professional hockey player, and she is about to get married to someone, and it's an arranged marriage, and she learns that he was cheating on her, so Jasper helps her leave, and she has had the biggest crush on him, and so they end up spending a lot of time together at the ranch and going around traveling, and she is just really still into him. She kind of gave up on that dream because she didn't think he'd ever see her that way, and he finally is, and it's their romance. And we learn more about Jasper's past and why he is such a stoic hero and really shuts people out, and he's finally allowing people in and sharing his emotions, and I really love that. I loved their relationship. It's pretty slow burn, but once it starts, it ignites. Like, these books are so spicy once they decide to finally be together. I've noticed that with all of them, and I just love it. I love the heroes of this series, and Jasper is one of my favorites. He is definitely the least, I don't know what word I want to describe, because like the heroes in the first 2 books are definitely a lot more in your face and like will tell you how they feel, and Jasper is not like that. He's much more quiet, and I loved him so much. I love that he was a hockey player. I just loved everything about this. They spent a lot of time on the farm. We see so much of the family, and I'm dying for the next book. I don't know whose book it is, but I have people who I want it to be. So another absolute 5 out of 5 star. This whole series has been 5 stars. She can do no wrong. This is amazing. Okay, the next one I'm not going to talk about or rate, but I did read Overgrown Railroad by Candace Taylor. This one is a book that I had to read for school because we are instructing it at the 10th grade level, and I read the whole thing, and it is a fascinating read. I learned so much that I never learned in school, so I'm really happy that my school is teaching it to our kids. So it is about driving while black in America, specifically during the 1930s and the 1960s, where there was a green book, which was like basically a guide where it was safe for black travelers to stop and either like get food, get car service, all these different things, and it talks a lot about the history going through the civil rights movement. So very fascinating read. I would check it out. This is the young readers edition that I read for being able to teach it to my kids. Then I listened to the audiobook of Sinner, and I'm so happy I decided to read this by audio because I got about 200 pages in physically, had to put it down and never picked it back up, and then I decided to restart from the beginning, listen to it on audio. Absolute 5 out of 5 stars. Like, I was not into it when I was physically reading it, but for some reason this audiobook just brought it to life, and I was obsessed. So I've had a lot of 5-star reads this month, and I'm so happy about it. This one is so good. So this is Sans. I never remember because everybody talks about the characters. So I think this is Sean's spell because Tyler, I think, was book 1. So this is Sean's book, and Sean is Tyler's brother from book 1. Book 1 is priest, and he has a very tumultuous relationship with religion in the church because something horrific happened to his sister at the hands of a priest, and so she ends up dying by suicide, and that's what a lot of the first book deals with. That's why Tyler became a priest, and Sean just does not, he just cut ties. He does not agree with the church or anything like that, but he meets Zenny at a function, and he is absolutely obsessed, and he is drawn into her. He wants her. She is younger, and little does he know, it is actually his best friend's little sister, and she is a nun in training. She has always wanted to be a nun. She wants to get her nursing degree and help out at this center they have. And so he actually has to go to the center because they're supposed to be, his company is taking it over, and they did not know it was being rented out to nuns. And his boss is like, figure out how to get this fixed and get them out. He's like, we cannot have this PR nightmare where they're saying we're trying to move out all these like sweet old nuns who are doing good in the community. So Sean has to, but then he meets Zenny again, realizes who she is, and Zenny says she has never been so attracted to a man in her life, and she was told by the order, I don't know, the people she's going to be a nun with, that she needs to be 100% certain she wants to be a nun, so she needs to go out and live her life and then decide. So she's like, Sean, you're going to be it. You're going to show me what there is about life, and I can decide then if I really want to give all that up and become a nun. And the angst in this book, because she is dead set on becoming a nun, and they fall in love, and he's like, okay, but don't fall in love with me, and he falls first. Like, he is so head over heels in love with her, and I was obsessed. But also during this, please know that his mother's dying of cancer, so that is really, really hard to get through in this book as well. Super emotional read, so much depth to it too, because while it looks just like a spicy romance, it is so much more than that because of how much Sean is going through with his mom and how much hard he's falling for Zenny and knows there's an expiration date on their relationship. And she is like, but I know my life plan, and that's not part of it. So good. I need to read Saint now for my book club with my Patreon with QB Tyler, because we're reading Saint for that, which is tomorrow, which is already passed by the time you've seen this, and I should have read that by now. Then I read Power by Cassandra Robbins, and I gave this 4 stars. This is a mom's fiance romance, and it's as taboo and fun as you could think. It's definitely out there, and it's definitely a book that if I wasn't in the mood for it, I would have hated it, but it was exactly what I needed after reading some really emotional, heavy romances like Powerless and Sinner. This one, she just gets with her mom's fiance, and her mom's a horrible person. Her mom has slept with her boyfriends in the past. Her mom like actively sought out her boyfriends and flirted with them to sleep with them. So she's like, I need to pick my boyfriends for who my mom's not attracted to. And so now she's in college, she's coming home. Her mom and her fiance have an open relationship. They have just a not loving romantic relationship. They're not in love with each other. They're just getting married to get married. But the mom wants him really for the status. And so he comes home and sees her, and he's like, I want you. And they fall in love. And I actually am doing a groveling video with this book because the hero has to grovel because of what he does. And it's so good. I had so much fun. I mean, is it a little over the top? Yes. And is it ridiculous? Yes. But it's spicy and a good time, and I was obsessed. So 4 stars. I really, really liked it. I'm not giving it 5 stars because it was pretty ridiculous, and they were like really over the top characters, but like it's what I needed at the time. I enjoyed it. Then I read Burying Water by K.A. Tucker. I love romantic suspense right now, and Catherine Cowles recommended this to me because I was chatting with her about romantic suspense after reading some Nora Roberts, and she said she loved this, and it's amnesia, and I was like, yes. So my problem with this one though is it was constantly back and forth between the past and the present, which I don't normally love. I listened to this on audio, so it was also kind of hard to pick up when they were in the past and the present. And they show the hero and the heroine falling in love in the past, and she is married to someone dangerous, and she's very wealthy, and she meets him. He's a mechanic, I believe, and so she met him when she was like on the side of the road, and they start falling for each other, and he starts becoming very protective of her. And then we also see her in the future where she was beaten up really, really badly, found, and she has no memory, and no one knows her. And so she is taken in by this woman who was also assaulted in her past and never lets anybody in, but she's like, you can come stay with me. And I think she has like horses and stuff. And so the heroine starts working on her farm, and the sheriff's son is someone that she feels really drawn to. And so it goes from there, and it wasn't too romantic suspense in my opinion. It was more so like we're just unraveling this mystery of what had happened to her, and it was really, really tragic. It was pretty obvious who it was and what had happened. It was just unraveling how it happened, and I didn't really love that, and I didn't really love the romance, and I just gave it 3 stars. It was just an average read for me. I didn't love the amnesia aspect because we were doing the past and the present thing, so we didn't know what her amnesia was about, even though like most amnesia romances I read, we know everything in the beginning and then we see how they figure it out. So I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. I really wanted to love it more, but too many things were going against it for me of what I don't like. Then I read Coming Home by Kennedy Ryan. This is one I really wanted to love too because it's a novella. It is her Audible release that came out this month, and it is a novella though, so I wanted more, and that is definitely a me problem. I gave it 3 stars. This one, the hero and heroine had always danced around each other in, I think it was college, because now he is divorced, she is divorced. I don't remember if they're both divorced, but they both have had relationships, and he is coming back to his college where his daughter is currently at school, and it's homecoming week, and like it's a big deal for both of them, and they're being interviewed together, and he's like, yeah, there's this girl that I always wanted to be with, and it was her, but like they were always dating other people, and he was always like, well, it's never my time, I'm biding my time, and someone else would swoop in and take her, and it was fine, but like it was just over, and I wanted more. So, and this wasn't like the super emotional we normally get from Kennedy Ryan. I wanted like a little bit more angst and emotion in it, so I gave it 3 stars. It was just fine. I know a lot of my friends have been reading it, and I know a lot of my friends love it, but I just need to stay away from novellas for a while because I have expectations for them that are not met due to the nature of the genre, but I can't give a book 5 stars because it does what it set out to do. It's based on my enjoyment, which is like how I rate books, so I gave it 3 stars, but not the fault of the book. Then I read The Temporary Wife by Katerina Mora. This is the 3rd book this month I've read by her, and this one is her newest release. It's Marriage of Convenience. I already bought the audio of book 1 to listen to, and this one, the hero is a like business guy. He does really well. He's a billionaire, and his grandmother has been setting up them to get married with people, and so it's usually for corporate alliances, and so he is really into though his secretary, and she's worked with him for 8 years. She is very just straight-laced. She's not going to get involved with him. She puts him in his place. She's really the only one who talks back to him, and she'll go to functions with him, and he finally like makes a move and shows her that he wants her, and she's like no, and what happens is he asks her if she would marry him because his grandmother has chosen who he's supposed to marry, and he's not into her, and he's like, can you marry me because you're the only one that I could see myself wanting to be around for 3 years, because they have to be married for 3 years in order for him to fully get his inheritance. And she's finally agrees because she wants to be like CFO, CEO, something like that. She's like, if you help me get this job, I will do it. So they get married. So it's a marriage of convenience, and obviously end up falling in love with each other, and I really liked it. He falls first. Like, Katerina Mora's heroes are always so obsessed with the heroines. He's obsessed with her, in love with her, and has been for years, and it is their romance, and it gets very emotional near the end. Something happens where the heroine really pulls away, and the hero has to work for her, and I just really liked it. She writes really great marriage of conveniences, and this one was that, and they had such a long history together, and the heroine was so cool because she had so many ambitions, and like even in the end, the epilogue, I was like, yes, like she is a serious go-getter, and she gets what she wants, and I love that about her, and she never gave that up even when they ended up together. So 4.5 stars for this one. I really enjoyed it, and you should definitely check it out. And the last one I read is Claire Kingsley. I finally read Fighting for Us. So I was putting this off because I read book 1, and I was really mad that book 1 in the series was basically a prologue. So book 1 is the first book of this couple's story. They fell in love in high school. They're super, super in love, but then the hero does something that puts him in jail. And it was very tragic, and he is so horrified by what happened and by his life now, and wants to just protect himself and survive, that he cuts off his entire family, including the heroine. And he does not let anybody visit him. He doesn't talk to them. He's just trying to survive in jail. And she still wears his engagement ring. So he had proposed before, they were in love, and she still wears it. It's 7 years later, and he is released from jail. And he's back, and he is very standoffish, stoic, and does not want her to be back in his life because he doesn't feel like he's good enough for her. So it's them working together to be back together again. She has never thought there could be anything else for her but him, and he has to come to terms with the fact that like she is there for him and he can open up to people. And he is scared though that he will do what he did again because he ended ended up having to fight a lot in jail, and he was afraid he wouldn't be able to turn it off and like turn that survival mode off anymore. So this one is a very, not angsty, but just a very emotional read, because there are certain things that he does that he doesn't mean to, and she is very patient with him, and he's just trying to figure out how to be in a relationship again and like let his family in again and really come to terms with the fact that he does need help in integrating back into society and not feeling like he is just fighting to survive like he was in jail. So I really enjoyed this one. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. I do think that it went on just a little too long, and I did though really like how her brother was a part of the plot and really helped the hero through some things, and the family aspect was really great as well, and I'm excited to see all the other characters and who they end up with. I just would have loved this to all to just be one book, and this one condensed a little bit, so we had the first book and this book just together, because I feel like that would have been a lot better than having book 1 by itself, which I gave 3 stars because I was just so annoyed by it, that this one and that one together would have been a great story. But overall, really fun small town romance. I also thought it was going to end up being a suspense because of something that happened, but it was really just the hero's paranoia coming out after being in jail, and he was always worried someone was like watching him and he had to always watch his back. It didn't turn out to be suspense, and I was really excited I was about to, because I'm really into that right now, but that's not the book's fault. But it was really great, and I'm excited to read more from this author. And those are all the books that I've read so far in February. Let me know what you've read so far, or what your favorites of the month are, or what your thoughts on what I've read are. I would love to hear. That's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.